My mother used to say, a long time ago, whenever there would be any really catastrophe that was in the movies or on the air, she would say, always look for the helpers.
Hand sanitizer, vitamin C.
The world is a crazy place right now, and if you're like me, you are probably spending a lot of time stuck inside. And that, of course, makes us feel isolated, which only makes the headlines and numbers even scarier to deal with.
The death toll in this country surpassing 20.
That kind of stuff gets exhausting after a while, so I thought I'd follow Mr. Rogers' famous advice to look for the helpers. The challenge is to find human connection without leaving my house at all, amid all of this craziness. Now, if we're really lucky, we might even be able to find a way to have a positive impact of our own. I'm gonna start here in my little corner of the world. Finding some news stories was surprisingly easy, but I had to get creative if I wanted to be able to interview these people. My first idea was to pack up my camera, mail it to people, and ask them to record their story. Well, that turned out to be a terrible idea. So then I thought most people already have a solution for talking to each other these days. So I hunted down my old webcam that I haven't used since 2011. Then I set up an interview with my very first helper, a guy living just 20 minutes away from me that's been 3D printing face shields.
My name is Alan Puccinelli. I'm the founder of Operation Shields Up. We're a group of makers that are 3D printing and fabricating face shields for our first responders in the fight for COVID. I think the first day I did 18, and now we're doing over 1,000 a day pretty consistently.
Alan and his team have printed thousands of face masks for doctors and nurses in the area. So I asked him, what have you learned from this pandemic?
One of the things I keep telling that I feel like is the untold story behind what we're doing is that, it's such an interesting time where there's so many people that are just looking for a way to help and to some sense of purpose and a distraction from just all the terrible news you talk about.
That concept led me to another helper who actually lived even closer to me.
My name's Tommy Zimmerman. I live in Sacramento area. I'm kind of working through that group, and things have grown since then. It's been kind of cool to see. I definitely didn't start this effort. I just saw it and said, I have a printer. I'd like to help. Seemed like a easy and nice, the right thing to do, you know?
I added both these guys to my map, but I realized if I kept doing it this way, it would probably end up looking like a conspiracy board. It's all connected. Luckily, my girlfriend has a lot more talent than I do, and she was able to drop off a couple of supplies on my front porch. Once I got the new design up, I started to think about some interesting things that Tommy and Alan said to me.
It's just interesting to see, how the world and people in your community respond. And I think for the most part, everyone in our street and our neighborhood, everyone wants to do something, mostly want to help.
I don't think you need to have necessarily experience. If you have a will and you lead by example, there's other people that will follow, and you can create a pretty powerful movement from just that.
There had to be people helping outside of my city. And once I started to look, things got a little bit ridiculous. I realized that there are tons of people trying to help in their own unique ways. Even making YouTube videos.
Hi, my name is Adam Kovic. I am a co-creative director at Funhouse, where we make a bunch of silly videos in the hope to make somebody laugh.
With me now is Bob Dillon.
As an entertainer, my job is to make you forget about that sort of stuff and have a brief moment of escape. And I try to keep that in mind every time we're making something, and just maybe if someone for 10 minutes can just forget about the craziness right now and that can help them get through it, awesome. But we're just here to make people laugh.
And when you start looking for that mindset, you realize there's something completely new spreading across the country. Each of these photos represents a story of someone doing something good for the people around them.
First, coronavirus vaccine. It went to a volunteer that you see right here, 43-year-old Jennifer Haller.
But one college student, she's spending her spring break shopping for seniors in need.
With inspiration from an out-of-state mentor, he came up with a way to help local small businesses stay here for good.
Well, it's all right. Riding around in the breeze, well, it's all right. If you live the life you please, well, it's all right. Doing the best you can, well, it's all right. As long as you lend a hand.
But then I realized a terrible problem. I ran out of thumbtacks. And I guess there's a thumbtack shortage for whatever reason? But don't worry, we were able to find a refill, which means we can keep adding people to the map, like Mark or Wendy, who are both bucketeers, which means they like these videos enough to support the movement. And if you'd like to do that too, you can click the support the movement button right up here and get signed up. This month, everyone who signs up, you will be directly helping our efforts to support people during the coronavirus, which you'll find out a little bit more about later in this video. And we will add you to the helper map because you're helping us. If you can't do that, no worries, click the subscribe button down below. With new thumbtacks in hand, we continued making the map. And it seemed like everybody was doing something to help out. Like a teacher providing lessons to their students on their front porch, or a man driving dozens of miles away to notify the Amish of the pandemic, or these kids making tons of sandwiches for homeless people. This girl offering support for her sister going through chemotherapy. This man walking across Florida to raise awareness. Or the thousands of people sewing face masks, like Kathy Curtis. She has hand-sewn hundreds of masks. So I asked her, what makes helping others so important?
I think about you take the skill set that you have and, for all of us, it's therapeutic. You know that we all want to come out of this okay, and we want our country to come out of it okay. It teaches you definitely to take every day, the same thing they say, take every moment and try to make a difference if you can. And treasure every moment and try to make the good things out of even what we're going through now.
And that got me wondering. New York City is feeling this pandemic harder than anywhere else in the country. So what are their helpers doing? And for that, I spoke to Manpreet, who was in the middle of delivering groceries to people in need. So it might be a little bit hard to hear her.
Everyone always thinks New York is like we're really tough, we're hard, we don't take anything from anyone. But you know what? We're a family. Every one of us, we're all hurting. We're all trying to just get through this. I think everyone's just pulling together though. Everyone is just feeling that this is something that we never expected to go through, and people are reaching out to one another. It's not always just about delivering the groceries. It's also about just connecting with people, like just making people feel that they're not alone. Life happens and you kind of, you carry on, but this has really brought people together just to say, hey, look, are you okay? Do you need anything? And I think that's happening across the world.
That last sentence stood out to me. This is happening across the world. Now, it didn't take long for me to see this video in my newsfeed. These guys are from Canada, which means I'm going to need a bigger map. Now, these things are ridiculously hard to put on the wall, and it didn't take long to figure out that the one I bought was way too small for what we needed. So I had to put the hundreds of United States news stories I found and compress them into just a few that would actually fit on this tiny area. Then I interviewed the guys from Canada and asked them what they hope people take away from their videos about helping these days.
People are having a hard enough time as it is right now. If you feel you have the bandwidth, go nuts. There's lots of people that are willing to help you. Reach out on Reddit or a forum. But if you can't and you're just trying to get by, that's fine. Everyone's just trying to get by right now.
A lot of people that I've been talking to have mentioned this idea. If you're not able to do a lot, you can help simply by staying home. Another video they did showed how you can help scientists fight the virus by simply installing something on your home computer.
They actually allow you to donate the power by just running a little bit of software on your computer, and then all these different people contribute a little bit, and it comes together to be quite massive. And right now, because of all the push and hopefully some of our influence and just COVID in general, people wanting to help out, the folding project is now, like, by a number of magnitude, the fastest supercompute project in the world.
And just like that, Canada was completely covered in helpers. And not surprisingly, Central and South America moved just as quickly. There was one news story from Brazil that stood out to me enough to take this thing to a whole nother level. Okay, Google, how do you say video call in Portuguese?
In Portuguese, you would say vídeo.
I'm not sure what I expected. I sent a very poorly translated message on Instagram to a woman named Dai, who lives in one of the biggest cities in Brazil. Then we got a call scheduled, and luckily her husband spoke some English.
My wife, she's doing social projects for about 4 or 5 years, and she has a phrase which is the things start to change when you start to care. If you care, you go there, you can change the place, the person, your neighborhood, your city, your nation. So, but the spark is to care.
Quando ele vier no Brasil, eu vou levar ele para subir a favela comigo.
She said, when you come to Brazil, you have a friend in here, and you're going with us to know the people and the projects.
I haven't left my house in a while, but suddenly I had friends in Brazil. And I felt like I understood something about strangers in Mexico, in Canada, or even in Cuba. It really surprised me to learn that I could not find a single positive news story from the Eastern Hemisphere. So I guess what we've learned through all of this entire adventure, is that the west side of the world is just more charitable than everyone else. I'm kidding, the entire map looks just as ridiculous. And there's some pretty cool news stories too, like this guy dressing up as Spider-Man to entertain kids stuck at home. There's this hotel providing free rooms for homeless people, and I accidentally sent them an email with the wrong translation. They're from the UK. This news station in Belgium that flew over the biggest town and asked people to create words of encouragement. I spoke to Vincent, who hosted the flyover, and I asked him what his favorite part of the experience was.
Then you had these doctors coming outside with their mask and their protection suits on, who just take 3 minutes of their very precious time off to wave and to make a message. And the biggest hospital in the country, they had like this big thing on top of their helicopter pad, because they can land the helicopter, which said it'll all be fine. And that was like the most hopeful thing, because everyone was like, good luck and stay strong. But they were positive. They said it will all be fine. And that message coming from the specialists was a very, very cool thing to see. Yeah, it was the best.
Were there any news stories from like other countries that stood out to you?
I saw this old man in Great Britain. I think he's 99 years old, and he raised like 25 million pounds just by walking, because he's 99 years old. He's very old. And he started walking in his garden, and people could donate to him.
Also in the UK was Peter, who donated a bunch of masks to his local hospital.
Just look out for your neighbor, look out for, especially if they're at risk. Simple things like that, just talking to your neighbors, talking to your family, and trying to look out for certain people. I think just small things like that can go a long way.
In the Netherlands, I spoke to Nat, who's a college student, and he built an organization with some internet strangers. I asked him if there was any response that stood out to him.
Got a call from someone who helped, and she called them crying like, I wouldn't be able to I don't know, like I wouldn't be able to do groceries, but I posted something on your website this morning and I got helped, and now I can live again for like a week, and I don't have to worry about my food. And she was just crying on the phone, so happy. And when I read that, I was just like, whoa, what the fuck, sorry for my language, but like this is actually so impactful for these people. That was a moment that I realized like whoa, what we were doing, like how many people we were actually helping.
While I was looking for news stories in Spain, I found an Australian woman who got stuck overseas with her son. And after that experience, she created an initiative that helps people get groceries when they aren't able to leave their house. I asked Lisa what she learned from the pandemic.
It has been really lovely to see the people that have taken this pandemic and this terrible time and turned it into a positive. It just feels like this has given everyone an opportunity to stop, to stand still, and to just assess, what's important. And I do think it is a time that we'll look back on.
Sorry to cut you off right now, but I think your kid's trying to jump off of something.
Age of COVID. This is the age of COVID. Albie, sit down, darling.
Looking at things this way, I felt connected to parts of the world I never would have dreamed of talking to. Like Kate from South Africa. When her university closed, she used her free time to help others.
And it shows how such a mundane task as going supermarket shopping can really help another person a lot. Every day we take it for granted. I have to go to the supermarket and pick up groceries, so dull. And now it's become this thing that is uniting huge communities, like going and buying someone their yogurt and their cereal. So I think it's impacted people to show how tiny gestures and tiny changes in their everyday life can bring about such huge change and change someone else's day, week, month.
The entire world was full of helpers. But I did feel like one thing was missing. And I think Adam had a little bit to say about it.
Those are the people who I am truly thankful for, because if anything happens to me, that's the person whose my life is in their hands.
He's talking about healthcare workers, like my mom. That photo makes me really emotional for two reasons. Number one, because it's my mom and she's a nurse, which means she is the biggest helper of them all. And number two, because the equipment that she wears every single day she goes into work was made by the very first people that I interviewed. Tommy and Alan, they saw there was a problem, they wanted to help, and now my mom is safe. There are not enough thumbtacks to say thank you to all of the essential workers in the world. But at the very least, I found a photo of a healthcare worker from every single country in the world. And since I cry way too much about the topic, I interviewed Jillian, whose sister is a nurse and volunteered to help on the front lines.
I think the term hero kind of has evolved in society. I mean, hero started out as a mythological thing where it was somebody who could fight the gods and, retrieve thunderbolts and do amazing things. And I kind of love the idea that a hero now is just a normal person, but they can see what they're good at. While she might not be a hero in the grand sense of the word, where she's a firefighter running into fire, if she saves somebody's life to that family, she's 100% a hero. But it's interesting because I don't necessarily think the way I see her as a hero comes from just her being a nurse. I think it just comes from, it's a lot of aspects about her personality. She just is a very strong person to me. And I see her as a very, very strong person. I think that is also important in this time and place, is making sure the people that you love know that you love them and know that you care about them and know that they're important to you. I think anything I would say to her if it was the last time would be what I say to her every time we get off the phone, which is I love you.
And just like that, our map doesn't really look like a map anymore. But this would not be a live for another video if I didn't try to find my own way to help. I asked my friend to go grocery shopping for me, and then he dropped off some things on my front porch. So now I have all of this. And actually, this isn't even close to all of it because there's way more. But really, the goal is to make 250 meals for homeless people. This whole thing is hard on everybody. Once you look for the helpers and put them all on a map that is way too small, I think it's easy to realize we really are in this together. And it's going to be okay.